Céline Marie Claudette Dion Ccoq is a Canadian singer. She is noted for her powerful and technically skilled vocals. Dion is the best-selling Canadian recording artist, and the best-selling French-language artist of all time. Her music has incorporated genres such as pop, rock, R&B, gospel and classical music. Born into a large family from Charlemagne, Quebec, she emerged as a teen star in her home country with a series of French-language albums during the 1980s. She first gained international recognition by winning both the 1982 Yamaha World Popular Song Festival and the 1988 Eurovision Song Contest, where she represented Switzerland. After learning to speak English, she signed on to Epic Records in the United States. In 1990, Dion released her debut English-language album, Unison, establishing herself as a viable pop artist in North America and other English-speaking areas of the world. Her recordings are mainly in French and English, although she has also sung in Spanish, Italian, German, Latin, Japanese, and Mandarin Chinese. During the 1990s, she achieved worldwide fame after releasing several best-selling English-language albums in music history, such as Falling Into You and Let's Talk About Love, which were both certified diamond in the US and over 30 million sales worldwide each. She also scored a series of international #1 hits, including The Power of Love, Think Twice, Because You Loved Me, It's All Coming Back to Me Now, My Heart Will Go On, and I'm Your Angel. Dion continued releasing French albums between each English record. Do became the best-selling French-language album of all time, while S'il suffisait demain, Sans attendre, and Encore un soir, were all certified diamond in France. During the 2000s, she built her reputation as a highly successful live performer with A New Day. On the Las Vegas Strip, which remains the highest-grossing concert residency of all time, as well as the Taking Chances World Tour, one of the highest-grossing concert tours of all time. Dion is also one of the best-selling music artists of all time, with record sales of more than 200 million worldwide. Although her releases have often received mixed critical reception, Dion is regarded as one of pop music's most successful vocalists. She has won 5 Grammy Awards, including Album of the Year and Record of the Year. Billboard named her the Queen of Adult Contemporary, for having the most #1 songs on the radio format for a female artist. Dion is the second best-selling female artist in the U.S. during the Nielsen SoundScan, the 8th all-time best-performing top female artist in the United States, and the 6th all-time best-performing female soloist in Billboard 200 history. In 2003, she was honored by the International Federation of the Phonographic Industry for selling over 50 million albums in Europe. In 2008, Dion was recognized as the best-selling international artist in South Africa. Life and career 1968 to 1989. Early life and career beginnings. Dion was born in Charlemagne, Quebec, 24 kilometers northeast of Montreal, the youngest of 14 children of Thérèse, a homemaker, and Adhémar Dion, a butcher, both of French-Canadian descent. She was raised a Roman Catholic in a poor but, by her own account, happy home in Charlemagne. Music had always been a major part of the Dion family, and she was named after the song, Céline, which French singer Hugh Gaufret had recorded 2 years before her birth. On 13 August 1973, at the age of 5, the young Céline made her first public appearance at her brother Michel's wedding, where she performed Christine Charbonneau's song, Du fil, des aiguilles et du coton. She continued to perform with her siblings in her parents' small piano bar called Le Vieux Barrel, the Old Barrel. From an early age, she had dreamed of being a performer. In a 1994 interview with People magazine, she recalled, "I missed my family and my home, but I don't regret having lost my adolescence. I had one dream. I wanted to be a singer." As a child in Quebec, Dion participated in Girl Guide programs as a member of Girl Guides of Canada. At age 12, she collaborated with her mother and her brother Jacques to write and compose her first song, Ce n'était qu'un rêve, whose title translates as, It Was Only a Dream, or, Nothing But a Dream. Her brother Michel sent the recording to music manager René Angelil, whose name he discovered on the back of a Jeanette Reno album. Angelil was moved to tears by Dion's voice and decided to make her a star. In 1981, he mortgaged his home to fund her first record, La Voix du Bon Dieu, which later became a local #1 hit and made her an instant star in Quebec. Her popularity spread to other parts of the world when she competed in the 1982 Yamaha World Popular Song Festival in Tokyo, Japan, and won the Musicians' Award for Top Performer, as well as the gold medal for Best Song, with Télémanger d'amour pour toi. By 1983, in addition to becoming the first Canadian artist to receive a gold record in France for the single, D'amour au de midi, Dion had also won several Felix Awards, including, Best Female Performer, and Discovery of the Year. Further success came when she represented Switzerland in the 1988 Eurovision Song Contest with the song, Ne partez pas sans moi, and won the contest by a close margin in Dublin, Ireland. At age 18, after seeing a Michael Jackson performance, Dion told Angelil that she wanted to be a star like Jackson. Though confident in her talent, Angelil realized that her image needed to be changed for her to be marketed worldwide. She receded from the spotlight for a number of months, during which she underwent dental surgery to improve her appearance, and was sent to the École Berlitz in 1989 to polish her English. In 1989, during a concert on the Incognito tournée, she injured her voice. She consulted the otorhinolaryngologist William Gould, who gave her an ultimatum: have immediate surgery on her vocal cords or do not utilize them at all for 3 weeks. Dion chose the latter and underwent vocal training with William Riley. 1990–1992. Unison, Dion chantait Plamondon and Céline Dion. 2 years after she learned English, Dion made her debut into the Anglophone market with Unison, the lead single having originally been recorded by Laura Branigan. She incorporated the help of many established musicians, including Vito Luprano and Canadian producer David Foster. The album was largely influenced by 1980s soft rock music that quickly found a niche within the adult contemporary radio format. Unison also hit the right notes with critics. Jim Faber of Entertainment Weekly wrote that her vocals were tastefully unadorned, and that she never attempted to bring off styles that are beyond her. Stephen Thomas Erlewine of AllMusic declared it a fine, sophisticated American debut. Singles from the album included Any Other Way, The Last to Know, Unison, and Where Does My Heart Beat Now, a mid-tempo soft rock ballad that made prominent use of the electric guitar. The latter became her first top 10 hit on the US Billboard Hot 100, peaking at number 4. In 1991, Dion was a featured soloist on Voices That Care, a tribute to American troops fighting in Operation Desert Storm. Her real international breakthrough came when she duetted with Peabo Bryson on the title track to Disney's animated film Beauty and the Beast. It became her first top 10 hit in the UK and her second top 10 hit in the US. The song earned its songwriters an Academy Award for Best Song and gave Dion her first Grammy Award for Best Pop Performance by a duo or group with vocal. Beauty and the Beast served as the lead single from her 1992 self-titled album, which, like her debut, had a strong pop-rock influence combined with elements of soul and classical music. Owing to the success of the lead-off single and her collaborations with David Foster and Diane Warren, the album was even more well-received commercially than Unison. It was certified diamond in Canada and double platinum in the US. The album's second single, If You Ask Me To, became her first #1 single in Canada and peaked at number 4 on the US Billboard Hot 100. Also during this time, Dion released the francophone album Dion chantait Plamondon. The album consisted mostly of covers, but featured 4 new songs, Des mots qui sonnent, Je danse dans ma tête, Quelqu'un que j'aime, Quelqu'un qui m'aime, and L'amour existe encore. It was originally released in Canada and France during the 1991–1992 period, then later received an international release in 1994, the first French Céline Dion album to do so. Un garçon pas comme les autres became a smash hit in France, reaching number 2 and being certified gold. In Quebec, the album was certified gold the day it was released. By 1992, Unison, Céline Dion, and numerous high-profile media appearances had propelled Dion to superstardom in North America. She had achieved one of her main objectives, wedging her way into the Anglophone market and achieving fame. However, while she was experiencing rising success in the US, her French fans in Canada criticized her for neglecting them. She would later rebuff these criticisms at the 1991 Felix Award show, where, after winning English Artist of the Year, she openly refused to accept the award. She asserted that she was, and would always be, a French, not an English, artist. Apart from her commercial success, there were also changes in her personal life, as Angelil, who was 26 years her senior, transitioned from manager to lover. However, the relationship was kept a secret as they both feared that the public would find their relations inappropriate. 1993–1995. The Color of My Love in Doe. In 1993, Dion announced her feelings for her manager by declaring him, the color of love, in the dedication section of her third English-language album The Color of My Love. However, instead of criticizing their relationship as she had feared, fans embraced the couple. Eventually, Angelil and Dion married in an extravagant wedding ceremony on 17 December 1994, which was broadcast live on Canadian television. As with most of her catalogue, The Color of My Love had overriding themes of love and romance. It became her most successful record up to that point, selling more than 6 million copies in the US, 2 million in Canada, and peaking at number 1 in many countries. The album also spawned Dion's first US, Canadian, and Australian #1 single, The Power of Love, which would become her signature hit in various nations until she reached new career heights in the late 1990s. The single, When I Fall in Love, a duet with Clive Griffin, achieved moderate success on the US and Canadian charts and was nominated for 2 Grammy Awards, winning 1. The Color of My Love also became Dion's first major hit in Europe, particularly in the United Kingdom. Both the album and the single, Think Twice, simultaneously occupied the top of the British charts for 5 consecutive weeks. Think Twice, which remained at number 1 for 7 weeks, eventually became the 4th single by a female artist to sell in excess of 1 million copies in the UK, while the album was eventually certified 5 times platinum for 2 million copies sold. Dion kept to her French roots and continued to release many francophone recordings between each English record. Generally, they achieved more credibility than her English-language works. She released A l'Olympia, a live album that was recorded during one of her concerts at the Paris Olympia in 1994. It had one promotional single, a live version of "Calling You," which peaked at 75 on the French singles chart. She also recorded a bilingual version of "Petit Papa Noël" with Alvin and the Chipmunks for the 1994 holiday album A Very Merry Chipmunk. "Do" was released in 1995, and it would go on to become the best-selling French-language album of all time. The album was mostly written and produced by Jean-Jacques Goldman, and amassed huge success with the singles, Pour que tu m'aimes encore, and Je sais pas. Pour que tu m'aimes encore reached number 1 in France and stayed at the top position for 12 weeks. It was later certified platinum in France. The single reached the top 10 in the UK and Ireland, a rare accomplishment for a French song. The second single off the album, Je sais pas, reached number 1 on the French singles chart as well and was certified silver there. During the mid-1990s and onward, Dion's albums were generally constructed on the basis of melodramatic soft rock ballads, with sprinklings of up-tempo pop and rare forays into other genres. She collaborated with many renowned writers and producers such as Jim Steinman and David Foster, who helped her to develop a signature sound. While critical reviews fluctuated, her releases performed increasingly well on the international charts, and in 1996, she won the World Music Award for World's Best-Selling Female Recording Artist of the Year for the third time. By the mid-1990s, she had established herself as one of the best-selling artists in the world. 1996 to 1999, Falling Into You, Let's Talk About Love and S'il suffisait d'aimer. In the 5 years since her debut English-language album in 1990, Billboard stated that she had already sold 40 million albums worldwide. Falling Into You, Dion's fourth English-language album, presented the singer at the height of her popularity and showed a further progression of her music. In an attempt to reach a wider audience, the album combined many elements, such as complex orchestral sounds, African chanting, and elaborate musical effects. Additionally, instruments like the violin, Spanish guitar, trombone, the cavaquinho, and saxophone created a new sound. The singles encompassed a variety of musical styles. The title track, Falling Into You, and River Deep, Mountain High, made prominent use of percussion instruments. It's All Coming Back to Me Now, and a remake of Eric Carmen's All by Myself, maintained a soft rock atmosphere, combined with the classical sound of the piano. And the number 1 single, Because You Loved Me, which was written by Diane Warren, was a pop ballad that served as the theme to the 1996 film Up Close and Personal. Falling Into You garnered career best reviews for Dion. While Dan Leroy wrote that it was not very different from her previous work, and Stephen Holden of The New York Times and Natalie Nichols of The Los Angeles Times wrote that the album was formulaic, other critics, such as Chuck Eddy of Entertainment Weekly, Stephen Thomas Erlewine of AllMusic, and Daniel Dershowitz, lavished the album as compelling, passionate, stylish, elegant, and remarkably well crafted. Falling Into You became Dion's most critically and commercially successful album. It topped the charts in many countries and became one of the best-selling albums of all time. In 2013, CBC Music ranked Falling Into You 33rd in their list of the 100 greatest Canadian albums ever. In the United States, the album reached number 1, and was later certified 11 times platinum for over 11 million copies shipped. In Canada, the album was certified diamond for over 1 million copies shipped. The IFPI certified Falling Into You 9 times platinum, an accolade that has been given to only 2 other albums in history, with one of the 2 being Dion's own album, Let's Talk About Love. The album also won Grammy Awards for Best Pop Album and the Academy's highest honor, Album of the Year. Dion was asked to perform The Power of the Dream at the opening ceremony of the 1996 Atlanta Olympic Games. In March 1996, she launched the Falling Into You tour in support of her new album, performing concerts around the world for over a year. She followed Falling Into You with Let's Talk About Love, which was publicized as its sequel. The recording process took place in London, New York City, and Los Angeles, and featured a host of special guests, such as Barbra Streisand on Tell Him, the Bee Gees on Immortality, and tenor Luciano Pavarotti on I Hate You Then I Love You. Other musicians included Carole King, Sir George Martin, Bryan Adams, and Jamaican singer Diana King, who added a reggae tinge to Treat Her Like a Lady. Let's Talk About Love was another major success, reaching number 1 all over the world, attaining platinum status in 24 sales territories, and becoming the fastest-selling album of her career. In the United States, the album topped the chart in its 7th week of release, and was later certified 10 times platinum in the US for over 10 million copies shipped. In Canada, the album sold 230,212 copies in its first week of release, which remains a record. It was eventually certified diamond in Canada for over 1 million copies shipped. The most successful single from the album was the classically influenced ballad, My Heart Will Go On, which was written and composed by James Horner and Will Jennings, and produced by Horner and Walter Afanasieff. Serving as the love theme for the 1997 blockbuster film Titanic, the song topped the charts across the world and became Dion's signature song. Horner and Jennings won the Academy Award and Golden Globe for Best Original Song, while Dion herself garnered 2 Grammy Awards for Best Female Pop Vocal Performance and the most coveted, Record of the Year. My Heart Will Go On, and Think Twice, made her the only female artist in the UK to have 2 singles to sell more than 1 million copies. In support of her album, she embarked on the Let's Talk About Love tour between 1998 and 1999. Dion ended the 1990s with 3 more extremely successful albums. The Christmas album These Are Special Times, the French-language album, S'il suffisait d'aimer, and the compilation album All the Way. A decade of song. On These Are Special Times, she co-wrote the song, Don't Save It All for Christmas Day, along with Rick Wake and Peter Zizzo. The album was her most classically influenced yet, with orchestral arrangements found on virtually every track. The album featured the single, I'm Your Angel, which became her 4th US #1 single, and a smash hit across the world. The album's 2nd single, The Prayer, served as the soundtrack of the 1998 film Quest for Camelot and won a Golden Globe Award for Best Original Song. All the Way. A decade of song drew together her most successful hits coupled with 7 new songs, including the lead-off single, That's the Way It Is, a cover of Roberta Flack's The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face, and All the Way, a duet with Frank Sinatra. All the Way became one of the best-selling compilation albums of all time, reaching #1 in the United States for 3 weeks. The album was later certified 7x Platinum in the US for 7 million copies shipped. It also topped the charts in the UK, Canada, and Australia. Her last French-language studio album of the 1990s, S'il suffisait d'aimer, was very successful as well, topping the charts in every major French-speaking country, including France, Switzerland, the Wallonia region of Belgium, and Canada. In France, the album was certified diamond, selling 1.5 million copies. By the end of the 1990s, Dion had sold more than 130 million records worldwide, and had won a slew of industry awards. Her status as one of the music industry's biggest pop divas was further solidified when she was asked to perform on VH1's Divas Live special in 1998, with superstars Aretha Franklin, Gloria Estefan, Shania Twain, and Mariah Carey. That year, she also received 2 of the highest Canadian honours, Officer of the Order of Canada for Outstanding Contribution to the World of Contemporary Music, and Officer of the National Order of Quebec. A year later, she was inducted into the Canadian Broadcast Hall of Fame, and was honoured with a star on Canada's Walk of Fame. Starting from the mid-1990s, the pop-rock influence that was more noticeable in her earlier releases was replaced by a more mature feel. Additionally, the recurring theme of love dominated most of her releases, which led to some critics dismissing her music as banal. Other critics, like Elisa Gardner and José F. Promise, praised her voice during this period, describing it as a technical marvel. Steve Dollar, in his review of These Are Special Times, opined that Dion was a vocal Olympian for whom there ain't no mountain, or scale, high enough. 2000–2003. Hiatus, A New Day Has Come, One Heart and One Fee and 4 Types. After releasing and promoting 13 albums during the 1990s, Dion stated that she needed to settle down, and announced on her latest album All the Way. A decade of song, that she needed to take a step back from the spotlight and enjoy life. Angelil's diagnosis with esophageal cancer also prompted her to hiatus. While on break, she was unable to escape the spotlight. In 2000, the National Enquirer published a false story about the singer. Brandishing a picture of Dion and her husband, the magazine misquoted her, printing the headline, Celine, I'm pregnant with twins. She later sued the magazine for more than $20 million. The editors of the Enquirer printed an apology and a full retraction to her in the next issue, and donated money to the American Cancer Society in honor of her and her husband. A year after the incident, after undergoing fertility treatments, she gave birth to a son, René Charles Dion Angelil, on 25 January 2001, in Florida. Following the 11th of September attacks, Dion returned to the music scene, and in a televised performance sang, God Bless America, at the benefit concert America, a tribute to heroes. Chuck Taylor of Billboard wrote, the performance brings to mind what has made her one of the celebrated vocalists of our time. The ability to render emotion that shakes the soul. Affecting, meaningful, and filled with grace, this is a musical reflection to share with all of us still searching for ways to cope. She performed it again in 2003 during pregame festivities for Super Bowl 37 in San Diego. In December 2001, she published her autobiography My Story, My Dream, which chronicled her rags to riches story. Dion ended her 3-year sabbatical from the music industry with the aptly titled album A New Day Has Come, released in March 2002. The album was her most personal yet, with songs focusing on her motherhood and maturation as a woman such as A New Day Has Come, and Goodbyes. She stated, becoming a mother makes you a grown-up. She stated, A New Day Has Come, for Renee, for me, is the baby. It has everything to do with the baby. That song, A New Day Has Come, represents very well the mood I'm feeling right now. It represents the whole album. A New Day Has Come debuted at #1 in more than 17 countries, including the United Kingdom and Canada. In the United States, the album debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, with first-week sales of 527,000 copies. marking her first #1 debut on the chart, as well as the highest debut sales week of her career in the U.S. It was eventually certified 3 times platinum in the United States, and 6 times platinum in Canada. While the album was commercially successful, critical reviews suggested that it was «forgettable», and the lyrics were «lifeless». Both Rob Sheffield of Rolling Stone magazine, and Ken Tucker of Entertainment Weekly, stated that Dionne's music had not developed much during her break, and classed her material as trite and mediocre. Sal Cinquemani of Slant magazine called the album, a lengthy collection of drippy, gooey pop fluffer nutter. The first single off the album, A New Day, has come peaked at number 22 on the Billboard Hot 100 charts, being an airplay-only release. On the Hot Adult Contemporary tracks, however, the song spent 21 consecutive weeks at number 1, breaking the record for the longest span at the top. The previous record holders were Phil Collins' You'll Be in My Heart and Dionne's Own Because You Loved Me, both of which lasted 19 weeks at number 1. The album's next single, I'm Alive, was featured on the soundtrack for Stuart Little 2, and was ranked number 2 on the European Hot 100 singles, and number 6 on the Hot Adult Contemporary tracks in the United States. During 2002, she performed for many benefit concerts, including her second appearance on VH1 Divas Live, a concert to benefit the VH1 Save the Music Foundation, alongside Cher, Anastasia, Dixie Chicks, Mary J. Blige, Whitney Houston, Cyndi Lauper, Shakira, and Stevie Nicks. In conjunction with an endorsement deal with Chrysler, she released One Heart, an album that represented her appreciation for life. The album largely consisted of pop and dance music, a deviation from the soaring, melodramatic ballads, for which she had been known. Although the album achieved moderate success, One Heart was met with mixed criticism, and words such as «predictable» and «banal» appeared even in the most lenient reviews. A cover of the 1989 Cyndi Lauper hit, I Drove All Night, released to launch her advertising campaign with Chrysler, incorporated elements of dance pop and rock and roll. The advertising deal was met with criticism, with some stating that Dionne was trying to cater to her sponsors. After One Heart, she released her next English-language studio album, Miracle. Miracle was a multimedia project conceived by Dionne and Australian photographer Anne Geddes and had a theme centering on babies and motherhood. The album was filled with lullabies and other songs of maternal love and inspiration, including covers of Louis Armstrong's What a Wonderful World, and John Lennon's Beautiful Boy. The reviews for Miracle were mixed. Stephen Thomas Erlewine of AllMusic.com gave the album 3 of 5 stars, stating, "The worst you can say about the record is that there are no surprises, but the audience for this record doesn't want surprises. They want comfort, whether it arrives in polished music or artsy photos of newborns, and Miracle provides both, which makes it appealing for those expectant or new mothers in Dionne's audience." Chuck Taylor of Billboard magazine wrote that the single, Beautiful Boy, was an unexpected gem, and called Dionne a timeless, enormously versatile artist. Chuck Arnold of People magazine, however, labeled the album as excessively sentimental, while Nancy Miller of Entertainment Weekly opined that, the whole Earth Mama act is just opportunism, reborn. Miracle debuted at number 4 on the Billboard 200 chart and number 1 in Canada and was eventually certified platinum by the RIAA. The Francophone album One Fee and Four Types, released in October 2003, fared better than her previous 2 releases and showed her trying to distance herself from the «diva» image. She recruited Jean-Jacques Goldman, Gildas Arzel, Eric Benzi, and Jacques Venerusso, with whom she had previously worked on 2 of her best-selling French albums S'il suffisait d'aimer and Do. Labeled The Album of Pleasure, by Dionne herself, the album cover showed her in a simple and relaxed manner, contrary to the choreographed poses usually found on her album covers. The album achieved widespread commercial success in France, Canada, and Belgium, where it reached number 1. In France, the album debuted at number 1 and was later certified 2 times platinum after selling over 700,000 copies. Critic Stephen Erlewine of AllMusic wrote that Dionne's vocals were «back at top of their game», and that she was «getting back to pop basics and performing at a level unheard in a while». Though her albums were commercially successful, they did not achieve the sales or the reception of her previous works. Her songs received less airplay as radio became less embracing of balladeers like Dionne, Carey, and Houston, and was focused on more up-tempo, urban, hip-hop songs. By 2004, Dionne had accumulated sales of more than 175 million albums worldwide and received the Chopper Diamond Award from the World Music Awards for her achievements. According to the official World Music Awards website, the award is rare. It is not presented every year, and an artist can be presented with the award only for selling over 100 million albums during their career. 2003 to 2007, A New Day. In early 2002, Dionne announced a 3-year, 600-show contract to appear 5 nights a week in an entertainment extravaganza, A New Day, at the Coliseum at Caesars Palace, Las Vegas. This move was generally seen as risky, but journalist Miriam Nunzio wrote that it was one of the smartest business decisions in years by any major recording artist. Dionne conceived the show after seeing O by Franco Dragone during her break from recording, and it premiered on 25 March 2003, in a 4,000-seat arena specifically designed for her show and modeled after the Roman Colosseum. Many stars attended the opening night including Dick Clark, Alan Thicke, Kathy Griffin, Lance Bass, and Justin Timberlake, who hosted the television special. The show, directed by Dragone and choreographed by the renowned Mia Michaels, was a combination of dance, music, and visual effects. It included Dionne performing her biggest hits against an array of dancers and special effects. Reviewer Mike Weatherford felt that, at first, Dionne was not as relaxed as she should be, and at times, it was hard to find the singer among the excessive stage ornamentation and dancers. However, he noted that the show had become more enjoyable over the course of its run, because of her improved stage presence and simplified costumes. The show was well received by audiences, despite the complaints of expensive tickets. It routinely sold out until its end in late 2007. Ticket prices averaged $135.33. According to Pollstar, Dionne sold 322,000 tickets and grossed $43.9 million in the first half of 2005, and by July 2005, she had sold out 315 out of 384 shows. By the end of 2005, she grossed more than $76 million, placing sixth on Billboard's Moneymakers list for 2005. Because of the show's success, her contract was extended into 2007 for an undisclosed sum. On 5 January 2007, it was announced that the show would end on 15 December 2007, with tickets for the period after October 2007 having gone on sale from 1 March. According to Billboard, A New Day is the most successful residency of all time, grossing over $385 million and drawing nearly 3 million people to 717 shows. The Live in Las Vegas, A New Day DVD was released on 10 December 2007, in Europe and the following day in North America. 2007 to 2010. Del's Taking Chances and Taking Chances Tour. On 21 May 2007, Dionne released the French-language album Del's, which debuted at the top of the Canadian album charts, selling 72,200 copies in its first week. It marked her 10th #1 album in the SoundScan era, and her 8th to debut at the top position. In Canada, the album has been certified 2 times platinum, and within the first month had already shipped 500,000 units worldwide. Del's also reached #1 in France and Belgium. The first single, Et s'il n'en restait qu'une, debuted at the top of the French singles chart a month earlier. Later that same year, she released the English album Taking Chances on 12 November in Europe, and 13 November in North America. Her first English studio album since 2003's One Heart, it featured pop, R&B, and rock-inspired music. For this album, she collaborated with John Shanks and ex-Evanescence guitarist Ben Moody, as well as Christian Lundin, Pierre Astrom, Linda Perry, Japanese singer Yuna Ito, and R&B singer-songwriter Ni Yo. Dionne stated, "I think this album represents a positive evolution in my career. I'm feeling strong, maybe a little gutsier than in the past, and just as passionate about music and life as I ever was." She launched her year-long worldwide Taking Chances tour on 14 February 2008, in South Africa, performing 132 dates in stadiums and arenas across 5 continents. The Taking Chances tour was a great success in the United States, reaching the #1 spot on the Billboard box score, having sold out every concert in the US and Canada. In addition, she appeared on Idol Gives Back for a second year in a row. Dionne was nominated for 6 Juno Awards in 2008, adding to her 53 previous nominations. Her nominations included Artist of the Year, Pop Album of the Year, Francophone Album of the Year and Album of the Year. The following year, she was nominated for 3 Juno Awards including the Fan Choice Award, Song of the Year, and Music DVD of the Year. On the 22nd of August 2008, Dionne presented a free outdoor concert, mostly in French, on the Plains of Abraham, in Quebec City, Canada, for the 400th anniversary of Quebec City. The celebration gathered approximately 490,000 people. The concert, called Céline sur les Plains, was released on DVD on the 11th of November 2008 in Quebec and was released on the 20th of May 2009 in France. Late October 2008 saw the worldwide release of a comprehensive English-language greatest hits album, My Love, Essential Collection. In May 2009, Dionne was named the 20th best-selling artist of the decade and the second best-selling female artist of the decade in the United States, selling an estimated 17.57 million copies of her albums there since 2000. In June 2009, Forbes reported that she earned $100 million during 2008. In December 2009, Pollstar announced that she was the best-selling solo touring act of the decade and the second best-selling touring act of the decade, behind only the Dave Matthews Band. She grossed $522.2 million during the decade, a large portion of that sum coming from her 5-year residency at Caesars Palace. On 17 February 2010, Dionne released into theaters a documentary film about her Taking Chances tour, titled, Céline, Through the Eyes of the World. The documentary shows behind-the-scenes footage of her both on stage and off stage, along with footage of her with her family as they traveled the world with her. The distributor is the Sony Pictures subsidiary, Hot Ticket. The film was later released on Blu-ray and DVD on 4 May 2010, along with the CD, DVD, Taking Chances World Tour, the concert. At the 52nd Grammy Awards in February 2010, Dion joined Carrie Underwood, Usher, Jennifer Hudson, and Smokey Robinson to perform the song, Earth Song, during the 3D Michael Jackson tribute. In January 2010, the Los Angeles Times presented its annual list of the top 10 largest earners of the year, revealing that Dion took the top spot for the entire decade, with $747.9 million in total revenue from 2000 to 2009. The largest haul came from ticket sales, totaling $522.2 million. Additionally, she was named Artist of the Decade in her native Canadian province of Quebec, announced by the Montreal-based newspaper, Le Journal de Québec in 2009 December. A public online survey asked responders to vote for whom they believed deserved the above-mentioned accolade. Furthermore, in a May 2010 Harris poll, Dion was named the most popular musician in the United States, ahead of U2, Elvis Presley, and the Beatles while factoring in gender, political affiliations, geographic region of residence, and income. Specifically, she was the most popular musician in the female demographic, as well as among all Democrats, those who live in the eastern United States and southern United States, and those who have incomes between $35,000 and $74,900. In September 2010, she released the single, Voler, a duet with French singer Michel Sardou. The song was later included on Sardou's album. In addition, it was announced in October 2010 that Dion wrote and composed a new song for Canadian singer, Marc Dupré entitled, Entre deux mondes. 2011–2014. Celine, Sans Attendre and Loved Me Back to Life. In an interview with People magazine published in February 2010, Dion announced that she would be returning to Caesars Palace in Las Vegas for Celine, a 3-year residency for 70 shows a year, beginning 15 March 2011. She stated that the show will feature all the songs from my repertoire that people want to hear, and will contain a selection of music from classic Hollywood films. To promote her return to Las Vegas, Dion made an appearance on The Oprah Winfrey Show on 21 February, during the show's final season, marking her record 27th appearance. In 2018, Billboard stated her residency Celine is the second most successful residency of all time. By the end of 2011, Dion has sold 331,000 albums and 956,000 digital tracks in the United States. For a record 6th time, she performed at the 83rd Academy Awards, where she sang the song, Smile, as part of the ceremony's In Memoriam segment. On 4 September, she appeared on the 2011 MDA Labor Telethon event and presented a pre-recorded performance of Open Arms from her new Las Vegas show. On 1 October 2011, the OWN network premiered a documentary on Dion's life, detailing the months before, during and after her pregnancy, to the makings of her new Las Vegas show, called Celine, 3 Boys and a New Show. The documentary became the second highest-rated show on TV OWN Canada. In October, FlightNetwork.com conducted a poll asking 780 participants which celebrity they would most like to sit next to on an airplane. Dion was the top favorite, with 23.7% of the vote. Also, in September, she released the 14th perfume from her Celine Dion Perfumes collection, called Signature. On 15 September, she made an appearance at the free concert of world-famous tenor, Andrea Bocelli, in Central Park in New York. In 2012, she performed at the 16th Jazz and Blues Festival in Jamaica. In October 2012, Sony Music Entertainment released the best of Celine Dion and David Foster in Asia. She began recording songs for her next English and French albums during April and May 2012. The French-language album, Sans Attendre, was released on 2 November 2012, and was a smash success in all French-speaking territories, especially in France where it achieved diamond status. The English-language album was postponed to 1 November 2013. Titled Loved Me Back to Life, it included collaborations with an exceptional team of songwriters and producers, including duets with Ne-Yo and Stevie Wonder. The lead single, Loved Me Back to Life, was released on 3 September 2013. Dion embarked on the Sans Attendre tour in November 2013 and performed in Belgium and France. Breakaway, Incredible, and Water and a Flame were chosen as next singles. In June 2013, Dion co-produced the show titled, Voices, by Véronique Dicker at the Bally's Hotel and Casinos Jubilee Theatre and was presented 145 times up until 2015. On 16 May 2014, Dion released a 3-disc set titled Celine une seule fois, Live 2013, which reached top 10 on the album charts in France, Canada and Belgium. Wallonia. 2014–present. Husband's Death, Encore un soir, Courage and Return to Vegas. On 13 August 2014, Dion announced the indefinite postponement of all her show business activities, including her concert residency at Caesars Palace in Las Vegas, and the cancellation of her Asia tour, because of the worsening of her husband's health after he underwent the removal of a cancerous tumor in December 2013. However, on 20 March 2015, she announced that she would be returning to the Coliseum at Caesars Palace in late August 2015. On 14 January 2016, she cancelled the rest of the January performances due to her husband's and her brother's death from cancer. Dion resumed the residency on 23 February to a sold-out crowd and rave reviews. In October 2015, Diane announced on social media that she had begun working on a new French album, posting a photo by the side of Algerian singer Zaho. Diane's French single, Encore un soir, was released on 24 May 2016. On 20 May, she released a cover of Queen's song, The Show Must Go On, featuring Lindsey Stirling on violin. She performed The Show Must Go On at the 2016 Billboard Music Awards on the 22nd of May, and received the Billboard Icon Award in recognition of her career spanning over 3 decades. The singer's new French album, Encore un soir, was released on 26 August 2016. It features 15 tracks performed in French and, according to the singer, has a personal choice of the songs. More uplifting lyrics were chosen. Encore un soir topped the charts in France, Canada, Belgium and Switzerland, and was certified diamond in France, 2 times platinum in Canada and platinum in Belgium and Switzerland. It has sold over 1.5 million copies worldwide. In 2016 and 2017, Diane toured Europe and Canada with 2 sold-out concert tours. On 9 September 2016, she released Recovering, a song written for her by Pink after Diane's husband René Angélil died in January 2016. Diane also recorded How Does a Moment Last Forever for The Beauty and the Beast, original motion picture soundtrack, released in March 2017. Her compilation, Un peu de nous, topped the chart in France in July and August 2017. On 3 May 2018, she released the single Ashes from the film Deadpool 2. The remix version of the song topped the US Dance Club Songs chart in July 2018. From June to August 2018, she toured the Asia-Pacific region and grossed $56.5 million from 22 shows. On 24 September 2018, she announced the end of her Las Vegas residency Celine, with the final date set for 8 June 2019. She is working on a new English album. In January 2019, she performed A Change Is Gonna Come at the Aretha, a Grammy celebration for the Queen of Soul, Franklin's tribute concert, to be broadcast in March 2019. In March 2019, she was one of 11 singers from Quebec, alongside Jeanette Reno, Diane Dufresne, Isabelle Boulay, Luz Dufault, Louise Forestier, Laurence Jalbert, Catherine Major, Ariane Moffat, Marie-Denise Pelletier and Marie-Hélène Thibert, who participated in a supergroup recording of René Claude's 1971 single, Tu trouveras la paix, after Claude's diagnosis with Alzheimer's disease was announced. On 3 April 2019, during a Facebook Live event, Diane announced her 2019-2020 Courage World Tour, beginning in Quebec City on 18 September 2019. She also announced a new English-language album of the same name, released in November 2019. On 18 September 2019, Diane released 3 songs, Lying Down, Courage, and Imperfections, from her upcoming album, Courage. On 26 February 2020, Diane released 2 songs as exclusive Spotify singles, an acoustic version of Imperfections, and a cover of Chris Isaak's Wicked Game. Isaac joined Diane and sang vocals on the track. On 10 June 2020, Diane announced that her Courage World Tour will kick off again in 2021, after the tour was postponed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. On 21 May 2021, it was announced Diane would return to Vegas, in November of the same year, for a limited-run installment of 10 dates in collaboration with Resorts World Las Vegas. Billboard listed Diane as the 3rd top-paid musician of 2020, with total of earnings of $17.5 million. Artistry influences Diane cites idols as varied as Michael Jackson, Aretha Franklin, Charles Aznavour, Carole King, Anne Murray, Barbra Streisand, and the Bee Gees, all of whom she would eventually collaborate with. Her music has been influenced by numerous genres, including pop, rock, gospel, R&B, and soul, and her lyrics focus on themes of poverty, world hunger, and spirituality, with an emphasis on love and romance. After the birth of her first child, her work increasingly focused on maternal love. Musical style Diane has faced considerable criticism from critics, who state that her music often retreats behind pop and soul conventions, and is marked by excessive sentimentality. According to Keith Harris of Rolling Stone magazine, sentimentality is bombastic and defiant rather than demure and retiring. Stands at the end of the chain of drastic devolution that goes Aretha, Whitney, Mariah. Far from being an aberration, Diane actually stands as a symbol of a certain kind of pop sensibility. Bigger is better, too much is never enough, and the riper the emotion the more true. Her francophone releases, by contrast, tend to be deeper and more varied than her English releases, and consequently have achieved more credibility. Critics have stated that Diane's involvement in the production aspect of her music is fundamentally lacking, which results in her work being overproduced and impersonal. However, coming from a family in which all of her siblings were musicians, she dabbled in learning how to play instruments like piano and guitar, and practiced with a Fender Stratocaster during the recording sessions for her album Falling Into You. Occasionally, Diane has contributed to the writing of a handful of her English and French songs, as well as writing a few songs for other artists such as Marc Dupree. Additionally, as her career progressed, she found herself taking charge in the production of her albums. On her first English album, which she recorded before she had a firm command of the English language, she expressed disapproval, which could have been avoided if she had assumed more creative input. By the time she released her second English album Celine Dion, she had assumed more control of the production and recording process, hoping to dispel earlier criticisms. She stated, "On the second album I said, well, I have the choice to be afraid one more time and not be 100% happy, or not be afraid and be part of this album. This is my album." Besides her contributions to some of her early French albums, Dion wrote a few of the songs on Let's Talk About Love and These Are Special Times. She is often the subject of media ridicule and parody and is frequently impersonated on shows such as MAD-TV, Saturday Night Live, South Park, Royal Canadian Air Farce, and This Hour has 22 minutes for her strong accent and onstage gesticulations. However, she has stated that she is unaffected by the comments, and is flattered that people take the time to impersonate her. She even invited Anna Gasteyer, who parodied her on SNL, to appear on stage during one of her performances in New York City. While she is rarely politically outspoken, in 2005 following the Hurricane Katrina disaster, Dion appeared on Larry King Live and tearfully criticized the U.S. government's slow response in aiding the victims of the hurricane. "There's people still there waiting to be rescued. To me that is not acceptable. How can it be so easy to send planes in another country to kill everybody in a second and destroy lives? We need to serve our country." After her interview, she stated, "When I do interviews with Larry King or the big TV shows like that, they put you on the spot, which is very difficult. I do have an opinion, but I'm a singer. I'm not a politician." Voice and timbre. Dion once claimed to be a mezzo-soprano. However, attempts to adapt classical voice types to other forms of singing have been met with controversy. Without making a classification, Kent Nagano, maestro of the Munich Symphony Orchestra, remarked, "All you just sang was full lyric soprano," after Dion auditioned with 2 solos from Carmen, wanting to know if she could sing opera. Her timbre has been described as thin, slightly nasal, with a raspy, lower register and bell glass-like high notes. According to Linda Lister in Divofication, the deification of modern female pop stars, she has been described as a reigning queen of pop for her influence over the recording industry during the 1990s, alongside other female artists, including Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey. In a countdown of the 22 Greatest Voices in Music by Blender Magazine and MTV, she placed 9th, and she was also placed 4th in Cover Magazine's list of the 100 Outstanding Pop Vocalists. Dion is often compared to Houston and Carey for her vocal style, and to her idol Barbra Streisand for her voice. She is often praised for her technical virtuosity. Jim Santella of the Buffalo News writes, "Like an iron fist in a velvet glove, the power of Celine Dion's voice is cloaked in a silky vibrato that betrays the intensity of her vocal commitment." Jeff Mears, also of the Buffalo News, says of Dion, "Her singing voice is absolutely extra-human. She hits notes in full voice, with a controlled vibrato and an incredible conception of pitch, like she's shucking an ear of corn." Stephen Holden of The New York Times states that Dion has a good-sized arsenal of technical skills. She can deliver tricky melismas, produce expressive vocal catches and sustain long notes without the tiniest wavering of pitch. And as her duets have shown, she is a reliable harmony voice. In an interview with Libération, Jean-Jacques Goldman notes that she has no problem of accuracy or tempo. According to Kent Nagano, she is a musician who has a good ear, a refinement, and a degree of perfection that is enviable. Charles Alexander of Time states, "Voice glides effortlessly from deep whispers to dead on high notes, a sweet siren that combines force with grace." In her French repertoire, Dion adorns her vocals with more nuances and expressiveness, with the emotional intensity being more tender and intimate. Additionally, Luc Plamondon, a French singer-songwriter who has worked closely with Dion, claims that there are 3 chanteuses that she uses: the Québécois, the French, and the American. Her self-titled 1992 album was promoted with the slogan, "Remember the name because you'll never forget the voice." Personal life. As the youngest of 14 children, Dion grew up wearing hand-me-downs and sharing a bed with several sisters. As a baby, she slept in a drawer to save on a crib. She was bullied at school and called "vampire," owing to her teeth and skinny frame. Local tabloids even dubbed her "Canine Dion" in the teenage years of her career. She often spoke of running home from school to play music in the basement with her brothers and sisters. "I detested school," she would later write in her autobiography. "I had always lived surrounded by adults and children a lot older than me. I learned everything I needed to know from them. As far as I was concerned, real life existed around them." Dion's eldest sister was already in her 20s, married, and pregnant with her first child at the time. Dion's mother, Thérèse, was pregnant with Celine. Dion first met René Angélil, her future husband and manager, in 1980, when she was 12 and he was 38, after her brother, Michel Dondelinger Dion, had sent him a demonstration recording of Ce n'était qu'un rêve, a song she, her mother Thérèse, and her brother Jacques Dion had jointly written. Over subsequent years, Angélil guided her to stardom in francophone territories. After the dissolution of Angélil's second marriage, he and Dion took a professional break and he spent the major part of the year in Las Vegas, while Dion was learning English and taking dance and vocal lessons in Montreal. Upon his return, he avoided being alone with me for too long a time, she said in her 2000 autobiography My Story, My Dream. Meanwhile, she kept a photo of Angelil under her pillow, writing, "Before I fell asleep, I slipped it under the pillow, out of fear that my mother, who always shared a room with me, would find it." She also wrote, "Less and less could I hide from myself the fact that I was in love with René. I had all the symptoms, and I was in love with a man I couldn't love, who didn't want me to love him, who didn't want to love me." Diane's mother, who traveled everywhere with the singer until she was 19, was initially wary of her daughter's growing infatuation with a much older and twice divorced Angelil. But Diane was insistent, telling her mother, "I'm not a minor. This is a free country. No one has the right to prevent me from loving whoever I want to." Their professional relationship eventually turned romantic after Diane's win at the Eurovision Song Contest in Dublin in 1988. She was 20. The romance was only known to family and friends for 5 years, though Diane nearly revealed all in a tearful 1992 interview with journalist Lise Payette. Many years later, Payette penned the song Je cherche l'ombre for Diane's 2007 album D'elles. Diane and Angelil became engaged in 1993, on Diane's 25th birthday, and made their relationship public in the liner notes of her 1993 album The Color of My Love. They married on 17 December 1994, at Notre Dame Basilica in Montreal, Quebec. On 5 January 2000, Diane and Angelil renewed their wedding vows in Las Vegas. In May 2000, Diane had 2 small operations at a fertility clinic in New York to improve her chances of conceiving, after deciding to use in vitro fertilization because of years of failed attempts to conceive. Their first son, René Charles Angelil, was born on 25 January 2001. Diane suffered a miscarriage in 2009. In May 2010, Angelil announced that she was 14 weeks pregnant with twins after a 6th treatment of in vitro fertilization. On Saturday 23 October 2010, at 11:11 and 11:12 am respectively, Diane gave birth to fraternal twins by caesarean section at St. Mary's Medical Center in West Palm Beach, Florida. The twins were named Eddie, after Diane's favorite French songwriter, Eddie Marnay, who had also produced her first 5 albums, and Nelson, after former South African President Nelson Mandela. She appeared with her newborn sons on the cover of the 9 December 2010 issue of the Canadian edition of Hello! Magazine. On 14 January 2016, Angelil died of throat cancer. His funeral was held on 22 January 2016, in Notre Dame Basilica in Montreal, where he and Diane wed 21 years earlier. The couple's eldest son, René Charles, gave the eulogy just 3 days before his 15th birthday. Following Angelil's death, Diane became the sole owner and president of her management and production companies, including CDA Productions and Les Productions Feeling. 2 days after Angelil's death, on what would have been her husband's birthday, Diane's brother, Daniel, died aged 59, also of cancer. On the 22nd of March 2018, Diane's management team announced that she had been dealing with hearing irregularities for the previous 12 to 18 months due to patulous eustachian tube and would undergo a minimally invasive surgical procedure to correct the problem after eardrop medications appeared to be no longer working. Owing to her slight frame, Diane has for decades been subject of eating disorder rumors, which she has consistently denied. "I don't have an eating problem, and there's nothing more I can say about it. My work requires me to be in great physical shape. I wouldn't have been able to live up to 100 shows a year and travel ceaselessly from one end of the world to the other if I had eaten too much or not enough, or if, as certain magazines have claimed, I made myself throw up after each meal." She has often spoken about having been bullied at school and lacking confidence in her early years in the business. "I didn't have, visually, what it took. I was not pretty, I had teeth problems, and I was very skinny. I didn't fit the mold." Diane took up ballet under the guidance of her former dancer, Naomi Steichman, who also previously performed for the National Ballet of Canada and La 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 Human Steps, and former Cirque du Soleil dancer turned fashion illustrator, Pepe Munoz, who is also part of her styling team. She is also a skier and a regular at her son René Charles's hockey games. Diane resides in Henderson, Nevada, in a house she bought with her husband in 2003. She previously owned homes in Montreal, Quebec, and Jupiter Island, Florida. Diane's older son René Charles Angelil loves music and has tried to follow a musical path. Under the stage name Big Tip, he released in May 2018 on his SoundCloud account 6 rap songs including originals, The Kid, The Apple, and Never Stop, and 2 adaptations from The Weeknd songs, Catwalks, sampling on The Weeknd's Sidewalks, and a remix of The Weeknd's Loft Music as Loft Music Remix. He also released the 5-track EP Casino 5 in December 2020 using the artistic name RC Angelo. The EP includes the tracks Mamba Mentality, Money, Thrills and Rest, Noels, GG4, and LV.